many, as a bank, as a mobile network operator like MTN and others, how many women you have in your boards, how many you have in your senior management, so that by reporting and by making it public, then you're opening yourself to public scrutiny. And it works. As we speak, we have seen how the number of women in the executives, in the boards, and even the CEOs of these financial institutions have grown. So accountability is key. You need to have those rules and those strategies to actually make everyone account. So it's not just government, it takes two to tango in this business.
Thank you. We've learned some dancing steps, and we've also learned that without actually good infrastructure, not much can go. We hope that we will have light and our mics until the end. But this is my last question. Ça sera ma dernière question avant de passer le micro au public. This is really a conversation and a discussion for everybody. So I want to make sure that we have enough time for everyone to ask questions. I have one for you, of course. It's after you that I will pass the mic. So I will definitely, I have a very important question for you. I just want the public to get ready. We have mics that are going to go around. On a des micros qui vont circuler. Donc, apprêtez vos questions. Vous aurez le micro dans quelques instants. Dr. Fatima, we know that you are on the board, the Secretary General of the Board of Governors of BADEA. That is a very important role. And we don't often hear about board position, but board positions are quite amazing. We hear one day I was at this event and this retired man was listing all the board he was on. And I was like, this is great. You just go to a meeting every quarter, you get paid, and you make decisions. How do we get more women in boards? The process isn't very transparent. It's usually do you know, we need someone. Who can we call? And oftentimes, women don't come first, right? So how do we make sure that boards are representative? That in every board we have a woman, not because she's a woman, but because she's competent, but we've opened and made the process more transparent for more women in board positions.
Thank you, and I was worried that you're going to pass the question from the floor, which can be quite a challenging question. But I think it gives me quite warm heart when I look at the audience from the back, and I feel a bit shy and humble to answer in presence of women who had made it, who had made transformational initiative in the continent. And Madame Diop, you've been a leader that I look at with a lot of aspiration since I was, I joined my initial steps in the UN system, I would say. I think when people ask me about the leadership position and how I ended up in BADEA, I smile because not because it's a simple question to answer, because it's something that you live deeply every day. When I was in UNDP, where I was a rep in a position in an organization that has gender parity indicator, then I was approached by a bank that is all men, 10 male in management team, and they are looking for a female to join the bank. And I was like, am I ready? I think that sense of feeling that you can actually lead, you can thrive, you don't have to be apologetic, you can be nurturing the same way you are a woman, you are a mother, you are coming from a sistership, and you don't have to apologize for who you are. It is never something that is handed, it is something that is demanded. I think leadership for a woman is something that we have to earn, unlike many positions that men are granted with opportunities. We're not usually granted with opportunities. It goes back to the foundation of our upbringing, and I think similar to what you mentioned about your family in Zambia, I think we were raised by mothers in either they were like lucky young teachers in classrooms or in kitchens. They were not in boardrooms, but they created the subject of boardrooms, and I think it's on us to create the opportunity for the next generation. I think the opportunity we have got through our upraising, our government system is quite okay, that brought us here, but I think the responsibility on us is the hardest part of our journey. How we can make sure that there is quality education, so that we can bring a woman to the boardroom who's equally able to speak to a chairperson of a board and tell him no. And I think that's where it becomes very tough. I think the fact that we don't have to shy away from our who we are, and we don't have to become men to succeed, I think. They call me Brother Fatma, but I don't like that, but I don't mind. I think I am capable of deciding same like the men, but I think we have to remain as women. We have to believe that we are part of the making of the future, and we have to make sure that this continent is offering girls quality education that can make future leaders. Without education, I don't think we will reach our vision. And I would say that I have a dream, and I hope that with Badia having the opportunity to sit in a financial institution, you can influence decision of where money can go. I am hoping that I can do something better for the girls and the women of this continent. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We'll pass the mic to the audience, but thank you so much, because we've seen that this actually partnership, I remember yesterday you mentioned it was one of the fastest partnership that was done by Badea. And I think this partnership was done so fast because it was led by women and done by the women of Aulin. Congratulations. We have a question here in the front by Dr. Namizata Sangare. If she can have a mic. On peut avoir un micro au premier rang. On a une question ici pour Dr. Namizata.
Merci. Je voudrais féliciter Afou et ses collègues qui nous donnent cette opportunité de nous retrouver. Alors, ma question s'adresse à la représentante de l'Union africaine dans ce panel. Je pense que l'Union africaine a compris que la question de la femme est tellement éminente qu'en 2010, la décennie de la femme a été lancée, 2010-2020. 2016 a été consacré aux droits de la femme. Je voudrais savoir si actuellement à l'Union africaine, il y a un programme spécifique pour les femmes ou bien le tout a été reversé dans l'agenda global. Et féliciter Madame Bineta Diop à côté. Vraiment, on ne cessera de la féliciter pour le JIMAC. Merci.
Okay, I got it. Thank you. Yeah, thank you, my dear sister. It's so hard to tell you that actually that this decade, 2010-2020, it ended. Of course, a lot of things were done, but our leaders were like left unsatisfied that actually there is a lot we needed to do more, so that they decided actually to give it another decade, 2030, a second decade. This time, they said, let's focus on the financial and economic empowerment of women, because they realized that we still have a long way to go on that ground. We just heard a presentation on this fund of fund, AWIF, which is like even a FAWA. These women, as part of this decade, were saying, we still needed to resolve this issue of access to finance and economic empowerment. So for that, we now have a new decade that is focusing, deepening the support for women on really her financial and economic inclusion. I remember when I joined, by the way, I just left the AU a couple of months ago. So my memory is still fresh. So together with Benetta, we were saying, bidding goodbye in February, leaving those, achievements and milestones, but we are nowhere to go far from the African Union, because African Union is our house, is our home, is in our hearts. And wherever we go with it. So when I joined 4 years back, I said, women, can we come together and have a framework that we can work with so that we can achieve and account for this new decade, because we wanted it to be transparent, wanted it to be intentional on this. So a partnership framework called Women and Youth, Financial and Economic Inclusion 2030 was put in place. So it's an African Union initiative that is mobilizing partnerships of all the African Union institutions, the private sector, the UN Women, and other partners, including the AEDB and others. And the institutions like the MTN and others, we are inviting everyone to commit and pledge to account collectively what we are going to deliver. We have an overarching target to showcase by 2030 that will have mobilized $100 billion in access to finance for women and youth SMEs by the year 2030. So the challenge now the African Union has is to keep tracking these numbers. And they need a framework of MOUs, collaboration, so that they can really showcase to the woman that something is being done, because they are doing a lot of things. This private sector, they are doing a lot of things, but we tend not to document, and we tend just to kind of always feel like something bad or something is not being done enough when we are not even recognizing the small steps that we are making. So that accountability framework is there, and I'm sure it's going to continue. And it's our responsibility to reach out to the African Union team there and really commit and pledge. I'm sure they will be inviting us every year to just come and showcase what we are doing and celebrate the achievers and come up with other also strategies to get there. So that is maybe what I would say with regards to your question.
Thank you. We're going to take one and last question. We do have a cocktail after the last two speeches, so no worries, you will have all the speakers to interact and network with. Let's take this last question, 30 seconds, and we'll give 1 minute to the panelists to answer. I'm being pressed on time. If she can have a mic.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Yes, someone has.
Yes, thank you. My name is Sonia Toro. I am the Executive Director of the EU-Africa Chamber of Commerce. Thank you very much for the good insight today. Last year, I was discussing on a panel with Mrs. Diop, actually in Brussels, at the Crown Montana Forum. And during that discussion, and today the theme is what are the strategies to help women, access those high-level positions. And during that discussion that we had in Brussels, we pointed out something very important, and I was looking forward to hearing that, and this will be my question also to the panel. What about the vulnerability in our stories? Because when we were in Brussels, we heard the story about the president of Sierra Leone, the wife of the president of Sierra Leone, and also another story of women victim of war who succeeded to go to high-level positions. So this is, on one part, a recommendation, but also a question to the panel about our stories. What is our journey towards going to the top? I think and I believe that this is the only way to definitely inspire the young people so that we are accessible and we are reachable. Thank you very much.
So this was more a contribution, I see, but yes, Dr. Fatima.
Just wanted to reflect on.
Hi, my name is Hosan Christel Yachu. I'm the president of the Africa-Canada Women's Business Council. My question for you today is, how do we ensure that those women that we want to help climb the ladder, their voices are heard, their actual need are heard, and those discussions that we have in closed room, in high-level meetings, actually translate into practical action that actually have impact on those women having barriers to reaching higher levels? Thank you.
Thank you. I'll just respond to the one on the vulnerabilities, and I'll share back. I think at the end of the day, a woman who's striving to reach to a leadership position is a human. She has a vision, And hopefully we're talking about women that does not have a personalized vision of being just a successful director and a transformative change leader. We're talking about the real woman in leadership, and I think this room is packed with some of them. And during that journey, you will lose people who either, you will meet people who will not believe in you, they will not support you, but you will also lose people. You might lose a spouse, you might lose a brother who doesn't believe in what you're doing. Your family might look at you as like one maybe crazy person who's transforming and shifting the career. But I think the vulnerability is the beautiful part of the journey. And I think the ability that a woman has to have her own tranquility as a human, and acknowledging that we are the healing power of our continent. We are the one who build peace in this continent. I think if we are able to bring peace and conflict into settlement in this continent, we can actually transform the future of the generation. Not only women, but even the men in this continent, they need us to make sure that we are able. So I think we should not shy away from vulnerability. I'm happy to share if people are willing to listen at any point. There are so many vulnerabilities in the stories and journeys of any woman around this table, and I'm sure that probably some of us went through a couple of them. But I think we're not superheroes. We're just regular human who feels the pain, who shy, who cry, who will always have tough meetings, out of the meeting, cry, put your makeup, go to the next meeting, and fight your battle. That's what I'll say.
So Mitwa will answer the last question by the
I can
young
also
lady,
lend my
and then
voice
we'll close. Yes.
from a private sector perspective, and I guess my response will be somewhat an assurance as well that there's a very huge responsibility on the private sector, which we are very well aware of, because like you were saying, there's no dance that can be completed just with one dancer, right? So it takes two. And there's certain organizations that have made very bold statements and commitments externally. And when Mama Diop mentioned that we're now in that season where we're experiencing pushback, but the encouragement is to push back on the pushback, it also silently spoke to me, because in as much as we're making these bold commitments, with time, you find our voice slowly lowering in form of volume, okay? So I think the commitment or the assurance that I give to people like yourself in response to your question is that the intent from private sector is there. The bold statements have been made. As an example for MTN, very clear statement almost 3 years ago is that by 2030, the organization that is MTN Group across the 14 countries that we operate in will be 50% represented by women. It's a statement that's been made, you know? But of course, behind that statement comes implementation. So you can see CEOs like myself. We have many other CEOs across the group. I was happy to hear also the chairperson and group CEO from your perspective as well. But I think the commitment behind the commitment is that we'll push back against the pushback, because it is truly happening, to continue to create that safe space for women like yourselves, others who are not in this room, to continuously raise their voices.
Yes,
so if I may just add for a minute, is to say to you that to ensure that the feedback is heard from the women that we seek to inspire, we also need to create transgenerational networks. So it's good to have networks of leaders, but it's very good to have networks that allow young people to interact with older people. So in Nigeria, I founded Women in Finance Nigeria. I later worked with the women in Rwanda to found one in Rwanda. We have founded one in the UK for Africans working in the UK. And so what happens with those networks is you have these young ladies. In fact, we allow those who are studying finance, in fact, we allow students to join. And when we have our program, we don't discriminate. So the students, the young graduates are mixing with MDs and CEOs and chairmen. They're having an opportunity to be mentored and to be, encouraged. So it has been very powerful. And of course, we have social media as well. I have about 150,000 followers on LinkedIn. I make a point almost every day to put something out there. And when people respond, I try to engage with them.
Thank you so much. This is a great point, because Auline also has the intergenerational retreat that we do every year, which is where the older generation gets to interact with the younger generation. I can't say no. La vénérable Dao Gabala veut dire un mot. Donc, on va lui passer un micro afin qu'elle puisse dire un mot. Et après, on va passer au reste du programme.
Merci de me passer la parole. Ce n'est pas une question, c'est vraiment une suggestion. Je découvre Aoling et je pense que vous avez fait beaucoup de choses. Mais je reviens à deux interventions, celle de la CEO de MTN et celle de notre ami qui a créé le fonds. Pour promouvoir les femmes aux postes de décision dans les entreprises, le secteur privé a ses critères. C'est la compétence et c'est de savoir qu'est-ce qu'elle peut me rapporter, comment est-ce qu'elle peut me permettre d'atteindre les objectifs. Moi, j'ai eu la chance d'être administrateur de la première banque panafricaine à l'âge de 30 ans. Je n'ai pas demandé. J'ai fait ma carrière dans la finance et je pense que c'est comme ça qu'ils m'ont détecté. Alors, je voudrais juste vous faire la suggestion parce que j'ai vu tout ce que vous avez fait sur les violences faites aux femmes, etc. Et je pense que vous avez la légitimité de créer une académie qui va préparer les femmes au poste d'administrateur. Parce que pour être administrateur, ce n'est pas être une employée. Donc, mais ça requiert une certaine formation pour leur donner ce coffre qui fait que même au niveau de l'entreprise, on ne pourra pas se passer d'elle. Donc, vous avez la légitimité et je pense qu'après avoir travaillé pour les violences faites aux femmes, je vous suggère de créer une académie qui va former les administrateurs de demain pour qu'en Afrique, on ait un maximum de femmes au poste. Et comme vous avez en plus l'appui de l'Union africaine, je pense que pour promouvoir même les femmes à ces postes-là, on viendra vous demander est-ce que vous n'avez pas de candidature. Donc c'était juste cette suggestion que je voulais faire.
Merci beaucoup. C'est ça aussi, Aoline. Et donc, oui, Nana.
Je ne vais pas prendre le micro, mais je dois rebondir à ça. Donc, je suis Nana Koulibaly, la vice-présidente du Women Investment Club Côte d'Ivoire. Et l'un de nos piliers, c'est le plaidoyer pour mettre les femmes au poste de direction, notamment au board. Il y en a un programme qui s'appelle Women on Board, qu'on va bientôt, je pense qu'elle est partie, qu'on va bientôt lancer avec la CZCI aussi, afin de promouvoir les femmes dans les boards et surtout les outiller, même en termes d'application et en termes de profiling, pour vraiment avoir un nombre supérieur. Le seul problème, c'est que dans le secteur privé, on n'a pas de quota, comme on peut l'avoir dans les secteurs publics. Et ben, on compte sur vous pour vous proposer des textes de loi et qui pourra vraiment permettre de récolter des datas sur ça.
Merci.
Voilà.